Disagreement, desires for material happiness, old age, sleep, attachment for material possessions, anger, lamentation, illusion, and identification of the body with the self are all transformations of the material covering of the spirit soul. A person absorbed in the material bodily conception is affected by these things, but I am free from all bodily conception. Consequently, I am neither fat nor skinny nor anything else you have mentioned. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Narottama Dasa Thakura has sung, Dehe Smriti Nahi Yara Samsara Bandhana Kahantara. One who is spiritually advanced has no connection with the body or with the bodily actions and reactions. When one comes to understand that he is not the body and therefore is neither fat nor skinny, one attains the topmost form of spiritual realization. When one is not spiritually realized, the bodily conception entangles one in the material world. At the present moment, all human society is laboring under the bodily conception. Therefore, in the Shastras, people in this age are referred to as Dvipada Pasu, two-legged animals. Oh boy. No one can be happy in a civilization conducted by such animals. Our Krishna consciousness movement is trying to raise fallen human society to the status of spiritual understanding. It is not possible for everyone to become immediately self realized, like Jadabharatan. However, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:18, Nasta Prayeshava Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. By spreading the Bhagavata principles, we can raise human society to the platform of perfection. When one is not affected by the bodily conceptions, one can advance to the Lord's devotional service. Nastaprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistaki. The more we advance our freedom from the bodily conception, the more we are fixed in the devotional service, and the more we are happy and peaceful. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya says that those who are too materially affected continue the bodily conception. Such persons are concerned with different bodily symptoms, whereas one freed from bodily conceptions lives without the body even in the material condition. I'm not sure what that means, but one is freed from bodily conceptions. Oh, okay, yeah, I understand. Lives without the body even in the material condition. In other words, one is not uh, one does not identify himself with the temporary body. He identifies himself with the eternal soul within the body, so that he does not engage in mundane activities. Okay. Canto 5, Chapter 10, and verse number 11. My dear king, you have unnecessarily accused me of being of being dead, though alive. In this regard, I can only say that this is the case everywhere because everything material has its beginning and end. As far as you're thinking that you are the king and master and are thus trying to order me, this is also incorrect because these positions are temporary. Yeah, that's fact. Today you are a king and I am your servant, but tomorrow the position may be changed and you may be my servant and I your master. These are the temporary circumstances created by providence. Okay, providence means karma. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The bodily conception is the basic principle of suffering in material existence. In Kali Yuga, especially, people are so uneducated that they cannot even understand that the body is changing at every moment and that the ultimate change is called death. In this life, one may be a king, and in the next life, one may be a dog. According to karma, the spirit soul is in a deep slumber caused by the force of material nature. He is put in one type of condition and again changed into another type. Without self realization and knowledge, conditional life continues, and one falsely claims himself a king, a servant, a cat, or a dog. These are simply different transformations brought about by the supreme arrangement. One should not be misled by such temporary bodily conceptions. Actually, no one is master within the material world, for everyone is under the control of material nature, which is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the ultimate master. As explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabha Vritya. The only master is Krishna, and everyone else is his servant. Forgetfulness of our relationship with the Supreme Lord brings about our suffering in the material world. Yeah, everybody is suffering because we've forgotten our relationship with Krishna. Text number 12. My dear king, if you still think that you are the king and that I am your servant, you should order me and I should follow your order. I can then say that this differentiation is temporary and it expands only from usage or convention. I do not see any other cause. In that case, who is the master and who is the servant? Everyone is being forced by the laws of material nature. Therefore, no one is master and no one is servant. Nonetheless, if you think that you are the master and that I am the servant, I shall accept this. Please order me. What can I do for you? For purport by Srila Prabhupada, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Aham Mameti. One thinks, I am this body, and in this body relationship, he is my master, he is my servant, she is my wife, and he is my son. All these conceptions are temporary due to inevitable change of body and the arrangement of material nature. We are gathered together like straws floating in the waves of an ocean, straws that are inevitably separated by the laws of the waves. In this material world, everyone is floating on the waves of the ocean of nescience, meaning ignorance, as described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Miche Mayara Base Yacha Base Kacha Habudubai Jiva Krishna Dasa E Viswasa Karlita Arapukanai. Very nice poetry of spiritual knowledge. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states that all men and women are floating like straws on the waves of material nature. If they come to the understanding that they are the eternal servants of Krishna, they will put an end to this floating condition. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.37, Kama esa kruda esa rajo guna samudbhava. Due to the mode of passion, we desire many things, and according to our desire or anxiety, and according to the order of the Supreme Lord, material nature gives us a certain type of body. For some time, we play as master or servant, as actors play on the stage, under someone else's direction. While we are in the human form, we should put an end to this nonsensical stage performance. We should come to our original constitutional position, known as Krishna consciousness. At the present moment, the real master is material nature. Daivihiyesa gunamayi mamamaya duratyaya. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Under the spell of material nature, we are becoming servants and masters. But if we agree to be controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his eternal servants, this temporary condition ceases to exist. Yeah, we are all servants, servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our real identification. I'm not this. I'm not a member of this family or this group or this uh, type of what you would call uh, assembly. We are all eternal servants of Krishna. That's our real identity. My dear king, you have said, you rascal, you dull, crazy fellow, I am going to chastise you, and then you will come to your senses. In this regard, let me say that although I live like a dull, deaf, and dumb man, I am actually a self realized person. What will you gain by punishing me? If your calculation is true and I am a madman, then your punishment will be like beating a dead horse. There will be no effect. When a madman is punished, he is not cured of his madness. Wow. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Everyone in this material world is working like a madman under certain impressions falsely acquired in the material condition. For example, a thief who knows that stealing is not good and who knows that it is followed with punishment by a king or by God, who has seen that thieves are arrested and punished by the police, nonetheless steals again and again. He is obsessed with the idea that by stealing he will be happy. This is a sign of madness. Madness meaning one's crazy, insanity. Despite repeated punishment, the thief cannot give up his stealing habit. Therefore, the punishment is useless. There are people like that. Can't stop cheating and stealing. Text number 14. Sukadeva Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, when King Rahugana chastised the exalted devotee Jadabharata with harsh words, that peaceful, saintly person tolerated it all, and replied properly. Nescience, or meaning ignorance, is due to the bodily conception, and Jada Bharata was not affected by this false conception. Out of his natural humility, he never considered himself a great devotee, and he agreed to suffer the results of his past karma. Like an ordinary man, he thought that by carrying the palanquin, he was destroying the reactions of his past misdeeds. Thinking in this way, he began to carry the palanquin as before. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. An exalted devotee of the Lord never thinks that he is a Paramahansa or liberated person. He always remains a humble servant of the Lord. In all reverse conditions, he agrees to suffer the results of his past life. He never accuses the Lord of putting him into a distressed condition. These are the signs of an exalted devotee. Tate nukampam susamikshamana. When suffering reversed conditions, the devotee always considers that the reverse conditions are the Lord's concessions. In other words, Lord's mercy. He is never angry with his master. He is always satisfied with the position his master offers. In any case, he continues performing his duty in devotional service. Such a person is guaranteed promotion back home, back to Godhead. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8, Tate nukampam susamikshamano punjana evatma kritam vipakam. Ritvak vapurvir vidadan namaste jivet yo mukti pade sudayabak. My dear Lord, one who constantly waits for your causeless mercy to be bestowed upon him, and who goes on suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, offering you respectful obeisances from the core of his heart, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Wow, that's a very profound statement. Text 15. Sukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, the king of the Sindhu and Sovira states, Maharaj Raghugana, had great faith in discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jadabharata that the philosophical presentation, which is approved by all scriptures on the mystic yoga process, and which slackens the knot of the heart. The knot of the heart means one is very, very uh, much in Maya and identifies with the body. That's the knot in the heart. His material conception of himself as a king was thus destroyed. Let me read that again. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jayabharata that philosophical presentation, which is approved by all scriptures on the mystic yoga process and which slackens the knot in the heart, his material conception of himself as a king was thus destroyed. He immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat on the ground with his head at the lotus feet of Jadabharata in such a way that he might be excused for his insulting words against the great Brahmana. He then prayed as follows. Well, yeah, uh, that we should not be judge a person by their dress. We should judge a person by their uh, talking. So one may not have very nice clothing, but they may be a great uh, devotee. So, and that's what happened here. That although Jadabharata looked like a crazy man, but actually he was very exalted devotee. And Jadabharata eventually understood that, and he uh, actually surrendered unto uh, and uh, and asked for forgiveness. Okay, so even though he looked like a crazy man, uh, he was understood after some time to be an exalted transcendental devotee, and therefore, uh, instead of the king ignoring him or thinking that he was some crazy fellow, he surrendered to him. Okay. Text 14. No. Oh, text 15. Is it text 15? 15, yeah. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita,
the translation.
What?
We haven't read the translation.
Okay, but I look like a. Okay.
15 translation.
15 what? Text?
Text.
Sukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, the king of the Sindhu and Suvira states, Maharaj Raghugana had great faith in the discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jadabharata that philosophical presentation, which is approved by the scriptures on the mystic yoga process, and which slackens the knot in the heart, his material conception of himself as a king was thus destroyed. He immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat on the ground with his head at the lotus feet of Jadabharata in such a way that he might be excused for his insulting words against the great Brahmana. He then prayed as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Lord Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsaya vidu. Sakalena ha mahata yogo nasta parantava. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Through the disciplic succession, the royal order was on the same platform as great saintly persons, Raja Rishis. Formerly, they could understand the philosophy of life and knew how to train the citizens to come to the same standard. In other words, they knew how to deliver the citizens from the entanglement of birth and death. When Maharaj Dasarata ruled Ayodhya, the great sage Vishwamitra once came to him to take away Lord Ramachandra and Lakshmana to the forest to kill a demon. When the saintly person Vishwamitra came to the court of Maharaj Dasarata, the king, in order to receive the saintly person, asked him, Ahistam yattat punar janma jayaya. That's the way that great devotees say hello. They don't say hello. They say Ahistam yattat punar janma jayaya. In other words, he asked the sage whether everything was going on well in his endeavor to conquer the repetition of birth and death. That's the way that they would talk. They would say, hello, how you doing? No. They'd say, Ahistam yatat punarjanma jaya. The whole process of Vedic civilization is based on this point. Yeah. What are we doing to get free from the cycle of birth and death? We must know how to conquer the repetition of birth and death. Maharaj Raghugana also knew the purpose of life. Therefore, when Jadabharata put the philosophy of life before him, he immediately appreciated it. Yeah, and he also, surrendered to Jadabharata. This is the foundation of Vedic society. Learned scholars, Brahmanas, saintly persons, and sages who were fully aware of the Vedic purpose advised the royal order how to benefit the general masses. Okay. And by their cooperation, the general masses were benefited. Therefore, everything was successful. Maharaja Raghugana attained this perfection of understanding the value of human life. Yeah, the value of human life is that one can become Krishna conscious and eventually go back to Godhead by associating with genuine devotees and hearing lectures and engaging in devotional service for the Lord. So Maharaj Rahugana attained this perfection of understanding the value of human life. Therefore, he regretted his insulting words to Jadabharata and he immediately descended from his palanquin and fell down at the lotus feet of Jada Bharata. In order to be excused and to hear from him further about the values of life known as Brahma Jignasa, inquiry into the absolute truth. At the present moment, high government officials are ignorant of the values of life. And when saintly persons endeavor to broadcast the Vedic knowledge, the so called executives do not offer their respectful obeisances, but try to obstruct the spiritual propaganda. Thus, one can say that the former kingly government was like heaven, and the present government is like hell. Yes, unfortunately, that's the truth. Text 16. King Rahugana said, O Brahmana, you appear to be moving in this world very much covered and unknown to others. Yeah, it looked like he was a crazy guy. Who are you? Are you a learned Brahmana and saintly person? I see that you are wearing a sacred thread. Are you one of those exalted, liberated saints, such as Dattatreya and other highly advanced learned scholars? May I ask whose disciple you are? Where do you live? Why have you come to this place? Is your mission in coming here to do good for us? Please let me know who you are. Oh, those are really valid questions to ask. Yeah, because if someone is dressed like a madman and acting like a madman, but still uh, might be a pure devotee, you have to ask questions like this to find out whether he is a pure devotee or not. Maharaj Rahugana was very anxious to receive further enlightenment in Vedic knowledge because he could understand that Jadabharata belonged to a Brahmana family either by disciplic succession or by birth in a Brahmana dynasty. As stated in the Vedas, Tat Viganartam Sagurum Eva Vikachet. Rahugana was accepting Jadabharata as a guru, but a guru must prove his position not only by wearing sacred thread, but by advancing knowledge in spiritual life. Very good point. It is also significant that Rahugana asked Jadabharata which family he belonged to. There are two types of families, one according to dynasty and the other according to disciplic succession. In either way, one can be enlightened. The word sukla refers to a person in the mode of goodness. If one wants to receive spiritual knowledge, he must approach a bona fide Brahmana guru, either in the disciplic succession or in a family of learned Brahmanas. Text 17. My dear sir, I am not at all afraid of the thunderbolt of King Indra. Not am I afraid of the serpentine, piercing trident of Lord Shiva. I do not care about the punishment of Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, nor am I afraid of fire, scorching sun, moon, wind, or the weapons of Kubera. Yet I am afraid of offending a Brahmana. I am very much afraid of this. Well, you should be. If you insult a bona fide Brahmana, your whole life is ruined. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was instructing Rupa Goswami, as he purport, at the uh, Dasav, Meda Gata in Prayaga, he pointed out very clearly the seriousness of offending a Vaishnava. He compared the Vaishnava aparada to Hati Mata, a mad elephant. And when a mad elephant enters a garden, it spoils all the fruits and flowers. Similarly, if one offends a Vaishnava, he spoils all his spiritual assets. Offending a Brahmana is very dangerous, and this was known to Maharaj Rahugana. He therefore frankly admitted his fault. There are many dangerous things: thunderbolts, fire, Yamaraj's punishment, the punishment of Lord Shiva's trident, and so forth. But none is considered as serious as offending a Brahmana like Jada Bharata. Yeah, he was a Brahmana, but he might have looked like a crazy man, but actually he was not. He was a very exalted devotee. Therefore, Maharaj Rahugana immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat before the lotus feet of the Brahmana Jadabharata just to be excused. Yeah, see, at first he thought that Jadabharata was a crazy guy, but when uh, Jadabharata chastised the king, he suddenly realized that he had made a big mistake, and he fell down flat at the feet of Jadabharata. Translation: My dear sir, it appears that the influence of your great spiritual knowledge is hidden. Factually, you are bereft of all material association. Meaning he's given up all material association and fully absorbed in the thought of the Supreme. Consequently, you are unlimitedly advanced in spiritual knowledge. Please tell me why you are wandering around like a dullard, like a dumb person. Oh, good saintly person, you have spoken words approved by the yogic process, but it is not possible for us to understand what you have said. Therefore, kindly explain it. Although Jad Bharata looks like a crazy man, but when he chastised the king and spoke transcendental knowledge, the king realized he had made a big mistake, and he fell down and touched his lotus feet to be uh, be forgiven. And now he wants to be instructed properly. Purport: Saintly people like Chadabharata do not speak ordinary words. Whatever they say is approved by great yogis and those advanced in spiritual life. That is the difference between ordinary people and saintly people. The listener must also be advanced to understand the words of such exalted, spiritually advanced people as Jada Bharata. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna, not to others. Lord Krishna especially selected Arjuna for instruction in spiritual knowledge because Arjuna happened to be a great devotee and confidential. Similarly, great personalities also speak to the advanced, not to Sudras. Vaishyas, women, or unintelligent men Sometimes it is very risky to give great philosophical instructions to ordinary people. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the benefit of the fallen souls of Kali Yuga, has given us a very nice instrument, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The general mass of people, although Sudras and less, can be purified by chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. Then they can understand the exalted philosophical statements of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Our Krishna consciousness movement has therefore adopted the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for the general masses. When people gradually become purified, they are instructed in the lessons of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Materialistic people like Stri, Sudra, and Dvijabandhu cannot understand words of spiritual advancement. Well, Stri is referring to women. Sudras, of course, the low class people. And Dvijabandhu, the twice born personalities. In other words, they're fallen. Yet one can take to the shelter of a Vaishnava, for he knows the art of enlightening even sutras in a highly elevated subject matter spoken in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Wow, beautiful statement. Yeah, we should be very, very careful of insulting a pure devotee. Even though Jad Bharata seemed to be a crazy man, he was actually a pure devotee. But he was not understood to be a pure devotee until he began to speak. But when he started to speak, especially chastising the king for acting in a very disrespectful way, immediately the king surrendered to him. So you can't judge a person by their clothing. You have to judge a person by how they speak. I consider, text 19, I consider your good self the most exalted master of mystic power. You know the spiritual science perfectly well. You are the most exalted of all learned sages, and you have descended for the benefit of all human society. You have come to give spiritual knowledge, and you are a direct representative of Kapila Deva, the incarnation of God, and the plenary portion of knowledge. I am therefore asking you, O spiritual master, what is the most secure shelter in this world? Obviously, it's surrendering to Krishna. Purport. As Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Yoginam apisarve sam madhyatanacharat shatavam bhajate yomam samayuktamo mata. Of all yogis, he who abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, is the highest of all. Yeah, it doesn't say he who has the most money is the highest of all. No, he who is has great faith and worshiping Krishna in loving service is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Jad Bharata was a perfect yogi. He was formerly the emperor, Bharata Maharaj, and he was now the most exalted personality among learned sages and the master of all mystic powers. Although Jadbharata was an ordinary living entity, he had inherited all the knowledge given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Deva. He could therefore be taken directly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed by Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur in his stanzas to the spiritual master, Shakshat Taritvena Samasta Sastrai, an exalted personality like Jadabharata is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he fully represents the Lord by giving knowledge to others. Very important way of recognizing someone. And if someone is giving knowledge to others, I mean genuine knowledge, not junk knowledge, then it has to be recognized as an exalted personality. Jadabharata is herein accepted. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Jadabharata is herein accepted as the direct representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he was imparting knowledge on behalf of the Supreme Lord. In other words, giving bona fide knowledge to glorify the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Maharaj Rahugan concluded that it was appropriate to ask him about Atma Tattva. Atma Tattva means the truth about the eternal soul, the spiritual science. Tad Viganartam Sagurum Ivavigachet. This Vedic injunction is also confirmed herein. If anyone is at all interested in knowing the spiritual science, Brahma Jigyasa, he must approach a guru like Jadabharata. Well, Jadabharata was not attached to his body. In other words, he was not bodily identifying himself. He was completely transcendentally situated and using his body only in the service of Krishna. Therefore, he was not bodily, attached. He was using all of his energy in serving the Lord and spreading bona fide knowledge of Krishna. So he was actually a guru, a bona fide guru. Although he might not have looked like one, but he was. And only he was detected only when he began to speak. It is not a fact that your good self is the direct representative of Kapila Deva, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, let me read that again. It is not a fact that your good self is the direct representative of Kapila Deva, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To examine people and see who is actually a human being and who is not, you have presented yourself to be a deaf and dumb person. Are you not moving this way upon the service of the world? I am very much attached to family life and worldly activities, and I am blind to spiritual knowledge. Nonetheless, I am now present before you, and I am seeking enlightenment from you. Now, can I advance? How can I advance in spiritual life? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Although Maharaj Rahugana was playing the part of a king, he had been informed by Jadabharata that he was not a king, nor was Jadabharata deaf and dumb. Such designations were simply coverings of the spirit soul. Everyone must come to this knowledge as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2.13. Dehinosmin yata dehe. Everyone is encased within the body. Since the body is never identical with the soul, the bodily activities are simply illusory. Now, how many people understand that? Very few. In the association of such a sadhu as Jada Bharata, Maharaja Rahugana came to the awareness that his activities as a royal authority were simply illusory phenomena. This should be read to Mr. Uh, 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 well, it should be read to all so-called great personalities like Trump. He therefore agreed to receive knowledge from Jada Bharata. And that's what Trump should do too. And that was the beginning of his perfection. Tad Viganartam, Sagurum Iva Vigachet. A person like Maharaj Rahugana, who was very inquisitive to know the value of life. I like that, the value of life. And the spiritual science must approach a personality like Jada Bharata. Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. One must approach a guru like Jada Bharata, a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to inquire about the goal of human life. Text 21. You have said, I am not fatigued from labor. Although the soul is different from the body, there is fatigue because of bodily labor, and it appears to be the fatigue of the soul. It appears. When you are carrying the palanquin, there is certainly labor for the soul. This is my conjecture. You have also said that the external behavior exhibited between the master and the servant is not factual. But although in the phenomenal world it is not factual, the products of the phenomenal world can actually affect things. That is visible and experienced. As such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. All right, that's very interesting. Let me read that again. You have said, I am not fatigued from labor. Although the soul is different from the body, there is fatigue because of bodily labor, and it appears to be the fatigue of the soul. It appears to be. When you are carrying the palanquin, there is certainly labor for the soul. This is my conjecture. In other words, this is what I'm asking about. You have also said that the external behavior exhibited between the master and the servant is not factual. But although in the phenomenal world it is not factual, the products of the phenomenal world can actually affect things. This is visible and experienced. As such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. Okay, so everything is not Maya. We have to be very careful. Some people say everything is Maya. No, you have to be able to discern what is real and what is not real. And that's why it says here, as such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. Yeah, because some activities that are Krishna conscious are eternal. and they should not be considered to be untrue. Purport. This is a discussion on impersonal Mayavada philosophy and the practical philosophy of Vaishnavas. The Mayavadi philosophy explains this phenomenal world to be false, but Vaishnava philosophers do not agree. They know that the phenomenal world is a temporary manifestation, but it is not false. A dream that we see at night is certainly false, but a horrible dream certainly affects the person seeing it. The soul's fatigue is not factual, but as long as one is immersed in the illusory bodily conception, one is affected by such false dreams. When dreaming, it is not possible to avoid the actual facts, and the conditioned soul is forced to suffer due to his dream. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there is no water pot, there is simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. And that's a great statement. Yeah, a water pot uh, is a mundane thing, but actually it's very useful. It carries water from one place to another, and you can drink from it. So it is a very useful thing. If you break it, well, it's more difficult to, you know, transport water. You can only, then drink with your hands from a source. But when you have a water pot, you can get the water from the source and then go wherever you want with it and drink from it. So it's much more handy, much more, let's say, usable when you put the water in a water pot. And on all these, let's say, uh, in ancient times, there were a lot of these pots. That's what people discover nowadays. The different types of pots that were used in ancient times. Yeah, because when you have a water pot, you can carry the water from one place to another. If you don't have a water pot, then you can only drink water with your hand, but you can't transport the water from one place to another. Or if there's a fire, it's much more handy to have a water pot so you can stop the fire. So therefore, that's why it says here, uh, a water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there is no water pot. There is simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. And that is philosophy. That is a very philosophical statement. Why? Because when you have a water pot, you can take water from one place to another. If you don't have a water pot, you can only drink water with your hands. You see? So a water pot is actually, in other words, if you look in ancient societies, they have a lot of pots, and those are the only things that, mostly the only things that are remaining from ancient societies.
Mhm.
But the pots were very important because you could carry water from one place to another, right, and drink from it. So actually, it was a great, what we call a great asset to have a water pot. if you don't have a water pot, like say you're a caveman, you don't have a water pot, you can only drink with your hands. When you have a water pot, you can transport the water from one place to another. It's much more convenient. And therefore, that's why when they do, you know, when they uh, discover pots, excavate pots, they see that they were very prominent in ancient societies. So therefore it says, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. In other words, a water pot is made of earth and it's temporary. Actually, there is no water pot. There is simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. So these are the very philosophical points that should be understood. Okay, so I think we'll stop right there. Stop with the water pot. As long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. Wonderful statement. Yeah, if you have a water pot that's let's say has a hole in it, well, that's not functioning properly. Okay? But you have when you have a water pot that's intact, that is useful, yeah, you can transport water from one place to another. And you can see most of the things from ancient times that are discovered by excavations are pots, different types of vessels that people used to have before. We don't have all this type of vessels anymore. Uh, but in ancient times, the the clay pots were very important, for moving things from one place to another and so forth.
Mm.
So it says a water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there is no water pot. There is simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. See, this is philosophical explanation here. When dreaming, it is not possible to avoid the actual facts. And the conditional soul is forced to suffer due to his dream. Yeah, when you have a bad dream, you suffer. Right? When you wake up, you realize it was false. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there's no water pot. There's simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. Yeah, when there's a water pot, if you say, well, it's just earth. Yes, but it's earth that can carry water. So it's not just earth, it is a useful pot. And most of the things that archaeologists find from ancient societies are pots. They were very important, made out of clay. Very, very important. Mm. Because they could move the water from one place to another and not uh, be, let's say, stuck just by drinking from their hands. Right? So, and then they could put other things in those pots, clay pots. So that's what they discover usually from ancient societies. A lot of pots, a lot of pots. There are dishes also, but there's mostly pots. That was absolutely necessary in ancient times. Okay. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there's no water pot. There is simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. See, this is philosophy. Yeah, if you take uh, clay and make it into a pot, then you can use it in many different ways that are very useful. For example, carrying water from one place to another. But if you don't have a water pot, then it's very difficult. You can only drink water from the source, but you can't carry it to different places. Okay, we'll stop with that. These are this is amazing philosophical uh, knowledge here. That's why he says, and this is our takeaway for today. And where it says, when you are carrying the palanquin, there is certainly labor for the soul. This is my conjecture. This is my guess. You have also said that the external behavior exhibited between master and the servant is not factual. But although in the phenomenal world it is not factual, the products of the phenomenal world can actually affect things. That is visible and experienced. As such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. Purport, Prabhupada says, this is discussion on impersonal Mayavada philosophy and the practical philosophy of Vaishnavas. The Mayavada philosophy explains this phenomenal world to be false, but the Vaishnava philosophers do not agree. They know that the phenomenal world is temporary, is a temporary manifestation, but it is not false. A dream that we see at night is certainly false, but a horrible dream certainly affects this person seeing it. The soul's fatigue is not factual, but as long as one is immersed in the illusory bodily conception, one is affected by such false dreams. When dreaming, it is not possible to avoid the actual facts, and the conditioned soul is forced to suffer due to his dream. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there's no water pot, there's simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. Wow, this is like profound philosophy. Yeah. That's why it says here that this is a discussion on impersonal Mayavada philosophy and the practical philosophy of Vaishnava. The Mayavada philosophy explains this phenomenal world to be false. But the Vaishnava philosophers do not agree. They know that the phenomenal world is temporary, is a temporary manifestation, but it is not false. A dream that we see at night is certainly false, but a horrible dream certainly affects the person seeing it. The soul's fatigue is not factual, but as long as one is immersed in the illusory bodily conception, one is affected by such false dreams. When dreaming, it is not possible to avoid the actual fact, and the conditioned soul is forced to suffer due to his dream. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there's no water pot, there's simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. This is philosophy. This is profound philosophy. Basically, the Mayavadis will say that everything is false, everything is illusion. But the devotees or Vaishnavas, they don't agree. Whatever they claim to be false can be used in the service of Krishna. Then it's not false anymore. Basically, that's what's being said here. Haribol. Okay, we'll stop right there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is real philosophy. You wanna learn philosophy, you have to read this purport.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. You have a question?
No, Maharaj, just a comment, like even though things are temporary, but when we use in Krishna's service, that becomes like eternal asset.
Yes, that's another way of looking
Like
at it.
more deeper, even though the item was temporary, but we used in the permanent service.
Yeah. Yes. That's a very good observation. Very, very good. Very correct statement.
How the Mayavadis are totally off, like exactly opposite side.
They say everything is Maya.
Maya.
We don't say everything is Maya. We say everything is temporary.
Temporary.
So it's not that everything is false or everything is Maya. Everything may be temporary. So you cannot say it's false. But if you think it's the absolute truth, that is false. But even temporary things can be used in the service of the Lord. Yeah, this is a very good point. It says the soul's fatigue is not factual. Yeah, because the soul never gets tired, right? It's external. But as long as one is immersed in the illusory bodily conception, one is affected by such false dreams. When dreaming, it is not possible to avoid the actual fact. And the conditioned soul is forced to suffer it due to its dream. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there's no water pot, there's simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. So, there are two philosophical statements here. But mainly what's being said here, it's explaining the difference between the Mayavadi philosophers and the Vaishnava philosophers.
Right.
Yeah. So the Mayavadi philosophy explains this phenomenal world to be false. But the Vaishnava philosophers do not agree. They know that the phenomenal world is a temporary manifestation, but it is not false. That's the difference between Mayavadi and Vaishnava. Okay, we'll stop there today. This is like very high level philosophy.
In one paragraph.
We'll start with this again tomorrow. I'm going to think about this today. Beautiful, beautiful philosophy of Krishna consciousness. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
And Maharaj, that too in just one paragraph, and in difference between the philosophies of Mayavadi and Vaishnava.
Yeah. Why don't you read it?
Shall I read, Maharaj?
Yeah.
The whole purport?
Yeah.
This is a discussion on impersonal Mayavadi philosophy and the practical philosophy of Vaishnavas. The Mayavadi philosophy explains this phenomenal world is to be false. But Vaishnava philosophers do not agree. They know that the phenomenal world is a temporary manifestation, but it is not false. A dream that we see at night is certainly false, but horrible dream certainly affects the person seeing it. The soul's fatigue is not factual, but as long as one is immersed in the illusionary bodily conception, one is affected by such false dreams. When dreaming, it is not possible to avoid the actual facts, and the conditioned soul is forced to suffer due to his dream. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there is no water pot. There is simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false.
Yeah, you can look at a water park, and in my body would say, this is illusion. But the devotees say, oh no, it's not illusion. I can use it, carry water from one place to another. So it's not just earth. It's earth, but in a special form. So I can use it, in the service of Krishna. Yeah. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol. This is real philosophy. Everything can be used in the service of Krishna. A new devotee doesn't see like that.
Right.
But an advanced devotee can see how everything can be used in the service of the Lord. Just like when Prabhupada came to the United States, he saw all these hippies. And they were engaged in all kinds of intoxication, illicit sex. But he could see they all had a spirit soul, and that their engagement in sex and smoking marijuana, it was just artificial. It was not who they really were. And he proved it by transforming them into devotees who gave up all those bad habits. Whereas other people just said, well, they'll never change, the low class people.
Right.
So Prabhupada took the law, he started his movement in the lower east side of well, anyway, he started with the lowest people that were addicted to intoxication and sex, and he transformed them into devotees. That means that he could see the soul and not the body. So if you see a dead rat, you can't use it in any way other than trash, right? But if there's a living rat, you could actually catch it and use it in certain ways. And what is the one way that you could use the rat? Well, you could use the rat as a pet, right? And feed the rat, have a cage, and the rat's in the cage, and eventually the rat would become like begin to respect the owner, and then you can play with the rat. You don't have to keep him in the cage all the time, and use it as a friend. Let's see, as a pet, and so forth. Usually, rats will run away right away, right? But they can be trained to be friendly with the human beings. And there are people that have rats as pets. Now, normally a rat will run away and will always hide and is afraid of human beings. But they can be trained to be friendly to human beings. So therefore, we should never put an X on people. As long as they're breathing and they have life, even though they're very low class people, they can be trained to become devotees. And that's exactly what Prabhupada did. He took very low class hippies and made them into genuine devotees. So that's the difference between a pure devotee and mundane people. Mundane people put X's on people, and a genuine devotee never puts an X on human beings. But the genuine devotee knows how to transform people from being sense gratifiers to servants of Krishna. That is real philosophy, how to change a person from being a, uh, a sense gratifier to becoming a genuine devotee in the service of Krishna. That's the miracle of Krishna consciousness. Haribo.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances or glories to Srila Prabhupada. Just a quick question.
Yeah.
But as a neophyte devotee, as I am, so on that state, we have to put um, X on people who are not devotee and not associate with them so that we cannot hamper because our own Krishna consciousness. And second question is that person more dangerous who was earlier a Krishna conscious and then fall down? So we have to put X on such people also, or only on the like because at our level, what is advised?
Well, a advanced devotee doesn't put any X on a living entity. Like Srila Prabhupada, he had so many disciples, and some disciples, uh, fell down, but he didn't put an X on them. And when they came back, he accepted them. So we should never put an X on anyone. We should understand that some people are not perhaps ready to become Krishna conscious, but we should at least give them prasadam. And know that gradually, if they keep eating prasadam, they will become purified and will become devotees. That's why we have the food truck. It goes out and spreads prasadam. We don't need to preach too much. We simply give a lot of prasadam. And then there are many, many people that gradually become devotee friendly or actually become devotees. Most of the people that we feed become devotee friendly, and some of them actually become devotees. So we're not wasting our time distributing prasadam. If we're distributing food that has not been offered to Krishna, that is really a useless, service. But if you distribute Krishna prasadam and you have some literature that people can read, then it is not a mundane thing. It's a spiritual thing going on. And people can be benefited. And there are many people that have become benefited by the fact that devotees are taking out the food truck and distributing very nice prasadam and also some literature. So in that way, people can change their whole life by regularly associating with devotees, eating prasadam. So has anyone become a devotee from giving prasadam? From your
Yeah. Yes, I am the example. I
okay,
took the prasadam in 2006 in my sweet lord, and that's how I shifted to temple.
very good. There you are. You have an example.
So, Maharaj, from food truck, many students, they were coming like just for eating, but we are seeing now they have started coming to DYS class, Bhagavad Gita class, and helping in volunteer work. They're like,
Very good.
and they keep coming because they are inspiring others in
And
their.
they like prasadam.
They like prasadam, and they're coming regularly. And recently, Maharaj, one person came to food truck, and he said he was a student before in the university, and he was eating prasadam like during his study time, and now he got settled into some job in outside the Washington. So he came back for his personal thing, and he came to food truck to just to say thank you. You were feeding me
You
prasadam.
kept me alive.
You kept me alive during that time. Now he is well settled, and so he was very happy, and he was sharing his.
But now
thank you.
he's Krishna friendly.
Krishna friendly.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs also also told that he used to visit Hare Krishna temple. He used to walk miles just to get Sunday feast prasadam.
Yep. Yes. Unfortunately, he died because he did not actually become a practicing devotee. But he did have prasadam, so that means that Krishna will take care of him. Yeah. Haribol, all glories to Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. It's a wonderful thing that Prabhupada has given us, Krishna consciousness. And Harinam Sankirtan. Actually, Prabhupada has simply followed his guru's instruction and done so much good to the world. Okay, thank you. And we'll continue